Welcome to White Space, Data Center Dynamics weekly take on news from the data center industry. With me, Peter Judge, Max Smolax and Sebastian Moss. So let's start with Stellium. It's an 80 megawatt campus in Newcastle, 3 data centers, 1 hall in one of them's open. And it's a development from a well-established character called Noel Meany. Noel Meany has a team that he's worked with at EU Networks and Citadel 100. They've come into Newcastle by adding fibre, so therefore creating some bandwidth locally which is available for them and for everyone else. The data centre, as far as I can see, is one that's been sort of developed to a certain point by Highbridge and Cundall's. There's plenty of visible images of it on the web, which are the same as the one which Stellium has. And there's 2 megawatt of this available now, the rest of it coming fairly soon. The latency from there to Europe is less than the latency from Dublin, so it seems like a good idea, this one.
And of course we'll be needing more UK data centres because of good old Theresa May wanting to get everyone to store everything.
Yes, that's right. Why do we need more storage in the UK?
Because of the horrifying surveillance state that will destroy us. Because the UK's investigatory powers bill is going to come into force soon, just needs the Queen to rubber stamp it. And among other things, including government being able to hack and do lots of other things, companies need to store 1 year of metadata. Phone companies need metadata on phone calls, when, time, things like that. Internet companies need the web address, the MAC address of the computer, and lots of
MAC address.
It's by metadata you mean your browsing history.
Yes, and your browsing history, Max. So
I'm behind 7 VPNs. I'm fine.
And there are 48 organisations that will be able to just have this without any. Do they need to get a warrant or anything like that?
Depending on which organisation and what exactly they want, there's various layers, but compared to anything in the past, no, they do not need many safeguards at all to be able to give access to a lot of things. And the other troubling thing is that obviously the private companies will be storing this, including telecoms companies who, if you've been following the telecoms news, do get hacked quite a lot.
Right. So even if you trust the government and your phone company to do sensible things with the data, they're not necessarily going to look after it. And so other people may get hold of it. This is the latest version of the Snoopers Charter, which privacy organisations have been fighting against for some while. This slipped through both houses of Parliament while everybody was looking the other way.
Yeah, pretty much.
We'll have bigger problems to worry about.
If you've been following UK politics or politics in general, everyone is very confused and scared about the world, so things like this that are just complicated and technical easily go by.
I believe they call it the shock doctrine.
Yes.
Right. There's a petition against it.
Yeah, but there's a petition against a lot of things.
It's reached the magic number that means it must be debated.
It's the 100,000 signatures, yes.
So I mean, watch the space, but be careful what you do online in the meantime, unless you follow Max's advice of 7 VPNs.
Right. Okay. Max, you're back from Japan.
Yes. I went to Japan for the very first time. It's great. It's interesting. I can only recommend it. Of course, it is very expensive. But then again, I didn't pay for it. Huawei did.
Okay. A word from our sponsor.
Yes. So I mean, it's sort of like stating my allegiances. Yes, Huawei does like to take journalists out, and it's mighty impressive. The show they've put on this year, so there were about 1,500 people there, mostly sort of like telecoms executives, and what they talked about was 5G.
So 5G mobile data, which is no interest at all to data centers.
And this is where you ask, like, why should I care about 5G? Because on one hand, it's a telecom subject. On the other hand, it's not coming for another 4 years at least. So like the first 5G network they might have in China by 2020. But data center operators should care because 5G is powered by the cloud. Huawei has bought all of its chips on Cloud RAN. Cloud radio access networks, which essentially the meaning is sort of like, like data center is still king. And plenty of data centers will need to be built, plenty of racks will need to be sold, and plenty of servers in order to make 5G a reality. But here we come into very, very interesting territory, because the air will be saturated with information. Imagine gigabits just to every device you have. And I mean, it's sort of like, okay, well, we've talked about Internet of Things a lot, but this is how it's going to get delivered. So all of the things we have today, Wi-Fi, various Zigbees, weightless, all of that is going to disappear. Only 5G will remain because of the sheer capacity and punching power it will have, and the many ways that you can deliver it. Because, for example, Wi-Fi, it seems, is on its last legs, because if you can get a gigabit from the air, why would you drag a cable to a Wi-Fi access point? So anyway, very, very interesting, still very, very far away. It's going to take us a long time, but like people like Orange, BT, China Telecom, NTT, we're all there, all talking about these things, and not a lot of these people built servers or data centers, so they will need help.
And while you were in Japan, we had a mostly bleak autumn statement, but among those things was the government want to invest a lot into research in 5G. And I guess on similar research that could change the world but will take time is Microsoft and quantum computers. They've been taking kind of different approach to the Googles and the IBMs. They want to do a topological quantum computer, and for time and my intellect, I won't go too deep into it, but if you want to, we have a nice article on it. But essentially, rather than normal qubits, they have braids. So you measure the difference in how the central kind of tube is affected by these things going around it. And what that means is, unlike normal quantum computers, which are very easily disturbed by any kind of vibration, they're not, but they rely on physics that may or may not actually be true, because we don't know yet. So, but they think it is, and they've now got to the next stage, and they think they have a roadmap towards a real product.
The best way to test it is to try it.
Yeah, exactly. Build it, and the laws will come.
Okay, good. More prosaically, Sweden has cut its electricity tax by 97% on data centres. In other words, there was a tax on electricity for data centres, the same as the tax on electricity for many other entities in Sweden, but data centres have been classed as important industry that is subject to international competition. So, following advice that it was given a year ago, Sweden's government has, as expected, cut the electricity tax, meaning that potentially electricity could be 40% cheaper for people like Facebook with its giant data centre in Luleå. So that might change somewhat the destinations of data centres in the Nordics and in Europe.
And then, speaking of tax cuts, there's someone that's very eagerly eyeing tax breaks in America, and that's IBM. So you've got Ginny Rometty, the CEO, who's written an open letter to the Trump administration outlining the ways that IBM and the Trump administration kind of get on, and IoT, security, these kind of things, but also making a big play on the fact that he wants to cut the cost of bringing money from overseas back in, and saying, we'll do this, and we could spend it on education and jobs. But because we looked into what IBM did previously when George Bush cut the tax rate, and they mainly spent it on CEO bonuses, stock purchases, and laying people off. So whether it's going to actually, we're not going to get into politics, but yes.
That's right. I mean, arguably, she would have sent the same letter to any new president.
Arguably, but the rest of the tech industry has been very quiet. There's a good Peter Thiel's going around as a Trump transition team, going around Silicon Valley with an iPad trying to get people to join his cause, and apparently a lot of them just do not want to be involved with Trump. So you will see that kind of some businesses being pragmatic, some thinking maybe we shouldn't get involved in this. IBM definitely wants to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, it must be nice for Trump having someone come to woo him who isn't a misogynist white supremacist. So, there's been a few other news stories, and I think Sebastian is going to rattle through them as quickly as possible now.
Not all of them. I get told off if I go all of them, but I'll go speed round.
If you want more detail on any of these stories, it's on the website.
And on more stories, but yes. So you've got Google forming Montreal AI Research Group. They've also done a whole bunch of other AI stuff that we've talked about. They've got another data center that's behind schedule in Alabama. The Rackspace have opened in Frankfurt, which at the same time CBRE said Frankfurt is now the best, biggest
That's right.
city for co-location.
It's expanded
taken
hugely.
over London.
No.
There's still one more quarter left, but even if you just count those 3 quarters of the year, it's the biggest of any city in Europe ever. There's a data center in Franklin County owned by the government that's going through an ethical review at the moment. There's controversy over whether someone was giving contracts to a relative at another company, but they deny it, so we'll see. And
even the people carrying out the investigation are saying, we're just doing this because we've been told to, we don't think we're going to find anything.
Yes, but the person doing that investigation is on the board of the data center. So he's now moved it to another person who's not on the board, but
yes.
Local reporters have mentioned how he previously did exactly the same thing with a different dispute, and it was nicely put aside.
Keep digging on that one.
Exactly. And then speaking of digging, if you're cold in Finland, especially if you've been DDoSed, thankfully Ericsson have a data center they're selling the waste heat off to warm quite a lot, and so Finland's really getting into that. There are a lot of projects there. If you, same as Sweden, electricity, get no tax, and then maybe sell it off.
Sell off your waste heat.
Sell off your waste heat, warm some poor Finnish or Swedish people, and make everyone happy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's all from Whitespace this week. There'll be more next week and more on the website. See you then.
Bye-bye.